As my favorite economist, Milton Friedman, said it more than 50 years ago, inflation is made in Washington. Yet rather than working with Republicans to find a reasonable agreement to tame inflation, provide certainty to the economy, President Biden is demanding that Congress make room for new debt without a single sensible change to how government spends your hard-earned money.
Addressing the New York Stock Exchange, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has blasted the Biden administration for, amongst other things, irresponsible spending that has contributed to what he calls a ticking time bomb that will detonate unless we take serious, responsible action.
In the coming weeks, the House will vote on a bill to lift the debt ceiling into the next year. Save taxpayers trillions of dollars, make us less dependent upon China, curb our high inflation, all without touching Social Security and Medicare. Simply put, it puts it on a fiscal responsible path in three ways. It limits, it saves, and it grows.
The speech to Manhattan's financial district was well received. In fact, Mr. McCarthy received a standing ovation. He then took questions from the president of the New York Stock Exchange Institute.
Earlier this month, I would say, we saw President Macron of France join with dozens of French business leaders on a trip to China, and they returned with business deals. Last week, we saw President Lula of Brazil not only travel to China with dozens of Brazilian business leaders, but come back with deals, but also a unified opposition to U.S. trade and foreign policy as well. What, in addition to getting our fiscal house in order, what can Congress and policymakers do to help ensure the long-term competitiveness of the United States? Because what we're seeing is many countries and marketplaces not looking to the U.S. for those growth opportunities, but perhaps looking elsewhere.
Look, I think it's a combination of economics and foreign policy. Why don't we take this current situation to sit down within both parties and not focus on party, but focus on country? And say, what could come out of here that would make America stronger, make it easier to produce in America, and that would be cutting some red tape, cutting some of the burdensome regulations, making some common sense decisions. And you can utilize the debt ceiling as the opportunity to do it.
One such common sense decision relates to environmental, social and corporate governance, or ESG. Or to quote Mr. McCarthy, we should actually enhance the things that God has blessed this nation with.
Look, it doesn't matter what state you're in, anywhere in this country, we need to expand every form of energy we have. Every form, from wind, from solar, to petroleum, to natural gas. But God has blessed us with this. So not only could we lower our energy costs, which will lower inflation, lower the cost of goods, let families keep more money in their pocket, but geopolitically, we can make the world safer, and environmentally, we could lower global emissions. If we replaced Russian natural gas, just the amount that they have sold to Europe for 1 year, we would lower CO2 emissions by 218 million tons. American natural gas is 41% cleaner. But also think about the lessons that we've learned from Ukraine. Dependency makes us weaker.
Returning to Mr. Tuttle's original question, Mr. McCarthy said that while some alliances may be shifting, the bigger problem comes from right here at home in the United States.
President of France, Macron, the only foreign leader that President Biden has done a state dinner for, went to see President Xi, came back and told Europe we should become less dependent upon America. That's our ally. And the other fear we all should have as Americans in studying history, the grouping and the growth of China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, literally calling themselves an axis of power. We should not ignore that. The movement away from the dollar. But the one thing I will tell you, the only way the dollar fails become the world currency is not what China or other countries do. It's what we do from within. And spending too much money, putting ourselves in $31 trillion of debt is a greater threat than Brazil using the yuan and the dollar.
Thank you.